End of catch and release bail system nationally.
Okay, who would like to speak to that? The end of catch and release. Okay, everyone have their hand up.
All right, we'll read from the top. So Her Excellency Sally Wong, and we'll have Her Excellency Maria Magdalena. Well, I'll go through everyone. So Sally Wong, you're
Thank you, Your Excellencies and Your Royal Majesty. Until this Royal Decree number 266, end of catch and release, zero bail, was written, until this Royal Decree's issue, these criminals got bail. They were released to go home and they were in society again. This is not damage control. And thank you for your patience, but I just want to list the 12 crimes that were enabled to go home after they did these crimes. Violence offenders, repeat violence offenders, violent domestic offenders, firearm offenders, human smugglers and traffickers, sex use of children, violent and criminal gangs offenses, making and selling illicit drugs, carjacking, rape and child rape, violence against ancestors, and arrest and charge those continue to catch. Well, anyway, I've just listed the crimes that were able to get off on bail and return into society until their court hearing. Not anymore. Thank you, Your Royal Majesty.
You're welcome.
Her Excellency Gina Lee.
Thank you, Your Majesty. The old system promoted the abdication of justice by installing agents of criminal complicity. And these agents had broken that sacred duty to protect. And they were in fact betrayers of the innocent and administrators of injustice. And we saw this here in America with these mostly peaceful protests that had occurred, where these individuals would cause chaos, destroy businesses and communities, and be funneled to different communities to do the same thing over and over and again. And they were allowed to do this because politicians were actually going out and bailing and putting out bail for these individuals to get out of the system and to be able to go and conduct business as usual. And it was a form of control and manipulation. And this was all part of the tyrannical old system to be able to funnel these individuals through. So the old system prioritized offenders' releases, where Her Royal Majesty's Royal Decree prioritizes public safety and moral justice. The old system tyranny ignored victims and endangered communities, where Her Royal Majesty's Royal Decree protects the innocent and upholds accountability. The old system claimed authority while enabling harm, but Her Royal Majesty's Royal Decree holds all enablers of harm fully criminally liable. Fantastic. The old system, thank you very much, Your Royal Majesty. The old system used complexity of law to confuse and mislead us, while Her Royal Majesty's Royal Decree provides clarity and moral truth to restore order. And I can't tell you how important this Royal Decree is, just to bring strength back to communities and a sense of calm and peace. And I thank you very much for that.
You're welcome. And just to speak to the protesters being released, being bailed, those majority of the time were protesters for hire. So they were rented for, let's say, for a particular 2 to 3 days event, depending on how the handlers had planned how many days the protests would be. And so if at any given time they were arrested, many were already wearing a bracelet and had a number of a lawyer on standby paid for by the handlers or by the ones who planned the disruption to begin with, who hired these protesters for hire, gave them a placard. They had no clue, majority of the time, what they were protesting about. And of course, they had to have their lawyers on standby because they were simply being hired for that particular day or particular weekend. They were not actually majority also of the time. They were not even nationals of that particular country. They were flown in from different parts of the world. And this is why, if people were paying attention, this is also the same technique used by the false flags. You will notice that the victims, you say, hang on a second, that individual was on a Ukraine video. And then the next one I'm just using as an example. But then the next time there was a kakistocracy in Europe, the same victim were there. And then another incident in America, the same victim were there. How is that possible? Because they were all actors for hire. They were crisis actors, as I call them, protesters for hires. That's why they had that. They had to release them immediately, and that's why they had lawyers to on standby. Anyhow, thank you.
Maria Magdalena.
Thank you, Your Majesty. Everything has already been said. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to say a big thank you to, with this decree, for stopping the revolving door of crime, because it's perpetuated. So they're sent out, it's a revolving door. And it's really become, as you explained, a business of distraction and confusion. And if you go to those that are truly there to make a point, or that at gatherings or like rallies, or that they are peaceful. They're not creating havoc. They're there peacefully. So it's kind of easy to point out the ones that are for hire and the ones that are not. Thank you very much.
Yes, correct. So usually you would have a small number of protesters, and then let's say the politician of that local area or the handlers who are reporting majority of the time to foreign entities with foreign interests serving their businesses in a country, for example, in the kingdom. The protesters, I've just lost my train of thoughts there. What was I? Interference in the protesters would then, no, hang on, I'm mixing up the protesters. What was I speaking to prior to that?
You're speaking about the paid protesters.
Yes, the paid protesters, but there was a thought I was trying to remember. Anyways, the paid protesters. Sorry?
I just have Deborah Greg next.
Okay. So anyways, I will get back to that. There was an interference when I was trying to remember what I was about to say with regards to protesters. I better hand the microphone over to Her Excellency Deborah Gregg. Otherwise, someone will say, oh, look at that. Queen Romana, the robot froze or something. Anyhow, Your Excellency Deborah Gregg, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Royal Majesty. Thank you, Your Royal Majesty. I just wanted to mention that this royal decree that speaks to release also speaks to the changing of ideologies from the worldwide havoc everywhere in the world, back to an ideology of safety and security of all people around the world.
Mm-hmm. Ah, yes, I remember now about when I was talking about the different protesters being hired and the crisis actors appearing, they always seem to be always ready when the media goes to a particular event, when there's a crisis, a false flag happening. It's these hired actors always ready to give an interview. They're the ones screaming and yelling and crying. It's an emotional and psychological programming that they're trying to do with we the people. But when you pay attention to the faces, it's the same faces that you would see when they're having the I remember when there was an Arab Spring, and then there was something else prior to that happening in America. And then I remember watching the faces, and there was something happening in Europe. I remember watching the faces of these so-called victims, the people who were crying and having this uproar, the same people. I said, how can this individual be in Europe one day and then 2 days later already in part of Arab Spring? But they're all for hire. And as I said, they have lawyers who are on standby 24 hours a day to get them off. And on top of that, they have the nonprofit organizations masquerading as NGOs when really they are there as a to promote and protect those who have been hired to disrupt and hijack the small number of protesters. This is what I was trying to remember earlier, is the word hijacking, where you would have a small group of protesters and then the hired protesters arrive, and then they have their own narrative as given as an instruction for that day, and then they hijack the entire protest. The same what happened to the truckers. The original idea, the original intent of the truckers was hijacked by the politicians. All of a sudden, I saw the truckers, all of a sudden politicians talking with the truckers. And when I arrived in Ottawa, I said, this is not the truckers. They've been hijacked. And I said that before I even left QR City at that time. I said, the truckers convoy initiative has been hijacked. That's not their original intent. That was not their purpose. And they were then seen, those who hijacked the narrative were portrayed, of course, because they were the ones creating kakistocracy in Ottawa. They were then the entire trucking initiative, or the truckers initiative, was then branded as someone who was radical and violent and all of that nonsense. Meanwhile, it was all staged. As I was watching it in Ottawa, they had no idea, and it was good that they had no idea who I was at that time, because I saw with my own eyes the staged drama that was there in Ottawa. Anyways, who's next, Your Excellency?
I believe we have everyone, and we can go on to your next row for you.
Okay, thank you. And we have, 264, and then we'll go to 265, and I believe that would be it. So those are the last two.